Welcome to This Explainer. Right now, we're watching a really fascinating collision course unfold in the tech world. We're calling it the Apple paradox. On one hand, you've got these incredible, limitless dreams of artificial intelligence. But on the other, well, you have the very harsh, grounding, financial realities of the global supply chain. As we get closer to the upcoming September Apple event, the anticipation is just absolutely electric. But beneath all the hype of sleek designs and new features, there's a massive tension building between AI advancement and rising consumer costs.
Every September, the world holds its breath. It sounds a bit dramatic, right? But honestly, it's completely accurate. A single event in Cupertino essentially dictates the rhythm of the entire global tech market. And this year, the stakes for the iPhone 18 are higher than they've been in a really long time. We're not just talking about a slightly better camera or a new titanium color option here. The hype is about a complete paradigm shift. But as we're going to see, that shift comes with a massive, unavoidable price tag. You know that undeniable allure of the premium Apple aesthetic, right? The clean lines, the glowing logo, that whole promise of holding the future in your hand? But that beautiful glass storefront is colliding head-on with a tough reality. Upcoming devices are projected to cost substantially more. So the big question we have to ask is, can everyday consumers even afford to step inside that premium ecosystem anymore?
Act 1. The Apple Paradox.
To really grasp why the stakes for this specific hardware cycle are so astronomically high, we have to look at Apple's all-in bet, Apple Intelligence. This is their grand strategy for integrating practical AI features deeply across the iPhone, the iPad, the Mac, and pretty much all future devices. But here's the core paradox. This immense, invisible software ambition, it demands massive physical hardware upgrades. AI isn't magic. It requires serious processing power and memory to function.
Let's rewind a bit. Apple used WWDC 2026 to showcase a completely revamped Siri and a much broader AI strategy focusing on practical, daily AI features. But to get that incredibly smooth, intelligent software to run seamlessly on the actual physical phone in your hand, that requires top-tier internal components. And the global race to acquire those specific components is exactly what's driving up costs everywhere.
Act 2. The AI memory crisis.
So why exactly is your next smartphone going to cost more? Well, we have to look at a massive global hardware bottleneck. 90%. Just let that number sink in for a second. According to Counterpoint Research, the price of DRAM memory spiked by 80 to 90% in just the first 6 weeks of 2026. Look, this isn't gradual inflation. It's a complete shock to the system that fundamentally changes how every single gadget on the market is priced.
So why did that massive price spike happen? Simply put, AI data center demand is completely at odds with consumer smartphone supply. Memory chip makers are making a very logical business choice. They're shifting their production lines toward the highly profitable, high-bandwidth memory that massive AI data centers desperately need. But by doing that, they are completely starving the consumer smartphone supply chain. The AI boom is basically a hungry beast, and right now it's eating the hardware that powers the devices in our pockets.
Let's break down the brutal math for a single device. The estimated bill of materials, which is the actual cost to just manufacture the physical parts, for the highest-end iPhone 18 Pro Max is expected to rise by $300. To put that into perspective, looking at the INR equivalent, that's a staggering price increase of roughly 28,717 rupees just to build the phone. And remember, that's before a single rupee of profit margin is even considered by Apple. If we break that down even further, there are some very specific hardware cost drivers squeezing the industry right now. We've got those skyrocketing NAND and DRAM memory prices we just talked about. Then, add the astronomical costs of manufacturing Apple's next-generation 2-nanometer chips, advanced packaging expenses, and of course, brand new camera technology. Look, there's no sugarcoating it. Apple, just like any other company, is going to protect its profit margins. They are absolutely going to pass these massive compounded costs directly down to the consumer.
Act 3. The Indian consumer squeeze. Now, when we bring this global supply chain crisis home, it hits a very tough economic reality in Indian metros. People are already feeling a crushing squeeze from rising rent, groceries, and petrol. And at the exact same time, wage growth is incredibly sluggish. We're seeing stagnant wages even for traditionally safe degrees like B.Techs in computer science and MBAs. Add in high youth unemployment and the job uncertainty caused by this very same AI boom, and you have a perfect storm. Because of all this pressure, acquiring premium gadgets has led to a really heavy reliance on EMIs, taking out easy personal loans just to make these high-end devices feel accessible.
So just juxtapose these two realities for a second. You have a projected $200 global starting price bump for the new iPhone 18 Pro models. And on the flip side, you have the stark reality that buying these status symbols in India will now require taking on a significantly heavier EMI burden. The monthly payment isn't just a minor, easily forgotten expense anymore, it's becoming a major, surging financial weight during a time of persistent inflation. It really begs the question, how much more can the average consumer actually absorb?
Act 4. Exclusivity over accessibility.
So how exactly is Apple responding to this global squeeze? Well, by leaning away from budget devices and doubling down on the ultra-premium market. $2,000. That is the projected cost, roughly 2 lakh rupees, for Apple's heavily rumored widescreen foldable phone, and this device is expected to be in highly limited supply. Make no mistake, this isn't a phone for the masses. This is a pure statement piece.
So who exactly is that statement piece for? We're actually seeing Apple's target demographic actively shifting. With the economy getting tougher for the average buyer, their strategy seems hyper-focused on those who are insulated from the squeeze. We're talking about new-age AI professionals, influencers, and content creators who view these devices as essential business tools, and of course, consumers who are simply flush with cash. They're leaning heavily into the high-end iPhone as the ultimate status symbol.
And this push for exclusivity plays out directly in the actual product lineup. First off, the major upgrades are heavily reserved for the creme de la creme models. For instance, the iPhone 18 Pro is slated to finally get under-screen Face ID. Second, they're introducing a uniform rear design with prominent camera lenses, basically making sure everyone knows you have the Pro model. But step 3 is probably the most telling of all. Experts are hinting at an incredibly unusual move where the budget-friendly standard iPhone 18 might be delayed entirely until spring 2027, keeping the older iPhone 17 on the market much longer. Essentially, if you want the new AI features, you have to pay the premium.
Conclusion. A black swan moment.
Everything we've looked at in this explainer signals a fundamental, truly irreversible shift in the global tech landscape. T.M. Narasimhan, the MD of Motorola India, perfectly captures the gravity of this situation. He calls the memory crisis the black swan moment for the mobile phone industry. And that quote proves a vital point. This isn't just an Apple problem, it is entirely systemic. The old pricing models are just broken. The AI gold rush has permanently altered the supply chain, forcing manufacturers across the board to pass the burden right down the line.
Which leaves us with this final thought to chew on. Apple's vision of a smarter, deeply AI-integrated future is brilliant, no doubt about it. But it demands a very steep toll. As prices continue to rise and the wage gap widens, the whole concept of tech accessibility is fading fast. So in this ongoing battle between incredible AI dreams and harsh financial realities, is the iPhone 18 the most impressive device you'll never buy? That's a question every consumer is going to have to answer for themselves when they take a hard look at their budget this fall. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and we will catch you next time as we continue to break down the forces shaping our world.